From 2009 to 2013, illegal immigration was stagnant. In fact, you could say it was actually declining. But something was about to be proposed that hadn't been spoken of since the 1980s. Blanket amnesty for all illegal immigrants. It was from the Gang of Eight, and then later the Obama administration. It made amnesty the people's primary goal, and measures to secure the border became a second-tier issue, and the result, a firestorm of illegal immigration. Thousands of families from all over South America came flooding over the border. Many of them were unaccompanied children. Aid stations were overloaded. The Border Patrol began setting up tents to shelter them anywhere they could. It looked like a scene out of the old TV show MASH or a POW camp in the middle of a desert war zone. And of all of the people crossing the border, 70% said they decided to make the trip after hearing the amnesty rumors. They knew exactly what they were doing. Many were given instructions to walk straight up to the Border Patrol agents and say, "I need asylum." After that, the plan was just wait it out, wait for the eventual amnesty order. The number of illegals that crossed the southern border during that summer of 2014 was an unprecedented 140,000. The situation prompted me to go and see it firsthand, to see if the government was telling us the truth. They weren't. It is something, my trip down to the border, something that the media has largely misunderstood if they covered it at all. I wanted to send the message that conservatives do have a heart. We do have principles, but we also have a heart. You have to take a stand on principles. I wasn't, nor am I now, advocating amnesty. I was against it then and spoke about it loudly. They needed to be, and still need, to be sent back home. But at this time in the summer, in the heat of Texas, the immediate concern was for the well-being first and foremost of the children. America is a special place. It's a unique place. America is great because she is good. And if we lose that, we have nothing. Quite honestly, I was more concerned about our heart as people than the bellies of the children, because I know the government will take care of the children. But at the time, I was reminding you that an election was coming and you were going to be angry. And the last thing you should do is engage in anger and make decisions when you're angry. We are now hearing rumors that a new wave of illegal crossing on our border is about to hit, and it is already start, a number reaching a suspected 30% increase from what we saw back in 2014. Just a few weeks ago, I sent the show down to the most illegally trafficked crossing along our southern border. My team met up with Congressman Louie Gohmert and got a firsthand account of what is really going on today at our border.
Something that we noticed driving out here is all the Border Patrol. There's really Border Patrol everywhere. I mean, it was hours and hours drive down here. We didn't see a single Border Patrol car agent anywhere. But then the closer we got down here, I would say within maybe an hour before we got to the border, there's Border Patrol everywhere. So I'm not sure, we'll find out a little bit later as to the funding they're getting, but as of right now, it seems like there's an adequate amount of agents that are patrolling this area, but we'll confirm that later tonight. So we just got to an area right around the border. Drove 8+ hours to get down here. We're just about to link up with Congressman Gohmert, and he's going to lead us down to a park where the Rio Grande runs straight up to the through the park, and apparently illegals will cross the border undeterred and go straight across the river, go through the park, and then from there it's out into the middle of town, and then who knows where. But we're going to go with the congressman and see if we can get eyes on this park.
I thought maybe you'd seen a ribbon, because sometimes some coyotes will tie ribbons and they'll say go straight up the bank, and when you see the ribbon, follow the ribbons.
Really?
It'll take you to...
Have you seen those?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We saw 2 last night.
Yeah. And it's obvious they're tied. I mean, that pink ribbon right there, that's not Border Patrol that ties those kind of pink ribbons. So it's usually some mark telling somebody they're on the right track.
Do they usually have somebody pick them up somewhere on this side? Or are they just on their own once they hit this side?
No, they're on their own. Once they get them across the river, the gangs or cartels, they have completed their contractual obligation. They get far enough, maybe, that nobody stops to see if they're here illegally or not.
I cannot believe that literally they could walk across and no one's deployed here to stop them.
Yeah.
It's like they're inviting them to come over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, I mean, what an amazing business to be in, though. People pay you to bring them into the U.S. illegally. You get to use them as a diversion away from other things more high value like drugs that you want to bring in. So the people pay you to be a diversion that allow you to get the high dollar stuff into the country illegally. And then you can even use them after they go wherever Homeland Security ships them and be agents for you across the, I mean, it's just,
Wow.
but it all comes back to how easy it is to come into the country illegally.
Yeah.
Afternoon, fine, how are you?
Doing good, sir.
Louie Gohmert.
Hi, how are you?
As far as I know, I'm okay.
Okay.
Anything exciting happening today?
So far,
Same
no.
old, same old.
Just same old, yes.
Yeah, I'm a member of Congress and
Oh,
heading down to the park. You've met some of the Border Patrol. We have fantastic Border Patrol down here, but you've also seen where they are. They're not, right now, they're not at the river. They're back so that after people come in, they can find the Border Patrol and turn themselves in, the ones that want to. But again, I've been here all hours of the day and night, different times of the year, and you know, I've scared spotters, and now the superiors at Border Patrol said, oh, I'm sure those were DPS agents. And I said, DPS aren't in street clothes jumping off a 10-foot cage over a pump and running screaming into the woods when the branches tear into their flesh. That's not DPS. Anyway, of course it wasn't DPS. Those were spotters for the drug dealers and the drug cartels. And as people will tell you that are working the border, state or federal, when they talk privately, they tell you every inch of the border is controlled, on the Mexico side, across the way here, is controlled by some drug cartel. You never cross from over there to here unless you have the permission. In other words, you pay, make sure you're paid up to come across in that drug cartel's sector. So they manage when they come across the drug cartels. And as one Border Patrolman, Hispanic, he said, I speak better Spanish than some of the people coming in. And I tell them, look, I have to ask you, why did you come? Well, we came to get away from gang violence. He said, well, you may have some gringos buy that, but you and I both know you paid a gang to bring you into the U.S. He said 90% of the time they'll say, well, that's true, but we were told to say we're getting away from gang violence. There's only one logical answer, and that is we actually, this administration and the past administration was doing better when Bush went out of office in stopping illegal crossing, but obviously this administration doesn't mind people pouring in illegally. Otherwise, you don't have your Border Patrol back to receive people after they get in. You have them monitoring. There are 2 balloons that can monitor all this area. I mean, they've got the technology. They even have the equipment to monitor much of the border. They can see, I mean, like last night, we could see people that were staging on the Mexico side up the river here. And with our thermal, I'm looking at the thermal technology, and the thermal screen, you see them forming, you see them hiding back there. And one or two of them, it looked like were carrying a raft. You know what they're doing, and you could put a boat right there and make sure nobody came across. And you could move anywhere that they move, that you can see them move. But that was DPS that were actually doing that kind of monitoring. The Border Patrol's orders were, let them get in and then process them. And actually, Border Patrol told the DPS, look, they're not coming across because they know your boat's here in the area. Why don't you go ahead upriver and then we'll take care of it. And then by the time we got up here to the dock, they said, okay, yeah, as soon as your boats left, they came across. So we were able to catch them on the American side, and we're processing them now. There is a funding issue from the standpoint of funds not being used for what they should be. I mean, the funding has Border Patrol here. Just move them up to the river. Move them to where they're coming in. You can stop them instead of having your people here to process them. But we're not doing that. And I don't know if you recall, but when Janet Napolitano was Homeland Security Secretary, she just declared one day, look, Congress gave us $4 billion to put in a wall, virtual wall technology. I've decided that's not worth it. Well, I don't know what she's spending the money for, but that money went somewhere, and we don't know what all she did with the $4 billion that we appropriated to help secure the border itself. It's not getting done. Money has been there, and if we knew in Congress, you got a Republican majority in the House and Senate, if we knew the money was actually going to be spent not to catch people after on the American side and process them in and send them all over the country like we currently do, but we knew that it would actually be to secure the border and they really needed more, we would get them the money needed.
There's nobody patrolling this area. Anyone could just walk up and come to the American side. Along here I can see like toothbrushes on the floor, there's a shoe. It's just not heavily watched. Anyone can come over.
People may be doing something illegally, whether it's bringing drugs in or coyotes bringing people in illegally, but they're not stupid. And they know, they hear what's being said. On the Republican side, basically secure the border so that everybody comes in legally. And they know that. So they know by January of next year, all the illegality coming across may come to an end, or pretty soon after that. I know some people say you can never stop people from coming in illegally, but one of my least favorite presidents, Woodrow Wilson, stopped them after Pancho Villa's gang came across and killed some families. He put a new group called the National Guard at that time on the border by the tens of thousands, and nobody came in that we didn't want to come in. So it can be done, but it's a matter of commitment. We have the resources really to stop so much of what's being done, but as I saw out here when I was here most of the night last night, people are coming in. They could interdict and stop them from crossing, but we actually have Border Patrol that are told you don't interdict, you don't prevent them, you just get them and process them once they're in. It's crazy. You have local law enforcement, the constables that control this park here, Ansel Lewis Park. You've got DPS, as we saw. DPS have a huge presence here. And from what I hear from local people, they've made a huge difference just being here. This park used to be controlled by gangs, but by DPS being out here, families, they said, came out, maybe 1,000, 2,000 people were out here on the American side. But as you see, it's very active always on the Mexico side across here. And time to time, you stay out here long enough, you'll see somebody zip over on a jet ski, throw somebody off, and then haul back. I guess last year I was out here, and the Border Patrol weren't here, but the DPS zoomed up on one of their boats and actually got the jet ski and pulled it up over there. I was shocked though, the guy that paid to be brought over illegally, Chinese national. Why in the world would a Chinese national come this far from the Pacific? We're nearly to the Gulf of Mexico here.
Why are there no men accompanying these groups? It's all women and children.
Well, wait a minute. You don't know who accompanied them. You know who's busy being processed. But like I say, I've seen people being processed, go up the road, and there's guys running into the bush.
Wow.
So you don't know who brought them in. You know, that's who is allowing themselves to be seen and processed. But you don't know who came with them.
That's just heartbreaking. Imagine how terrified that little girl is. She knows
But
everybody.
actually, if you looked at her, she seemed very happy and
She's giving someone kisses on both cheeks.
yeah, I mean, really cute. She didn't look afraid. She looked quite content. Makes you feel like somebody caused her to feel safe. They got her over here. And now she's got it made. They've been picked up. Everything's good.
It's pretty ballsy to do that in the middle of the day.
Well,
But again, the
It's-
goal is to get caught, really. not
the
to-
goal is to be caught. We're just giving the drug cartels this massive business right here in America. So I'll make sure he knows I'm not a problem. Hi there.
Howdy.
Hi, I'm Louie Gohmert. I'm a member of U.S. Congress, just traveling around. Thank you for your work. I
Yes,
come
sir.
down quite a bit. They really are very vigilant down here. All right, we'll see. But you can imagine if you were a gang and this had been your park and you start seeing, you know, half a dozen DPS vehicles, it would change your routine.
Yeah. So that was the whole goal right there, was to get caught.
For that group, yeah. Absolutely. But the question is, what was the goal of the people that came with them?
Yeah.
Or they got them to that point? Because, you know, whoever saw to getting them in,
Comes one of the boats.
yeah, it's one of the boats. Just talk to the lower level Border Patrol. They'll shoot you straight. If you have them on camera, they probably don't want to talk. But, I mean, you see, these are nice guys out here.
Yeah, they are.
But their rear end's on the line if they talk, if they say anything.
I asked. He said, I can't do it. I was like, "I
Oh, did
understand."
you?
Yeah.
I know. We appreciate you.
No problem, sir.
How's
Yeah,
traffic
we
been?
enjoy it. It's fun.
Thank you.
Traffic been steady?
It's kind of slow today. I'm surprised.
I think the good reports show we're spending billions of dollars for people that have come in illegally. Why not use that money to make sure that we stay a secure nation so that we can continue to be the most generous nation in the history of the world? You don't need a wall right here. You got a dock right up the way there. You could have a boat there, and as fast as the boats are that DPS has, they can be down here and stop anybody that tries to come across. And if you and just having a boat that they know will stop them will keep anybody from crossing. You don't even need a wall right here. It's a gorgeous park. You don't need to interrupt the scenery. Just put one boat right down there, keep it there 24/7, and nobody will cross this area.
So this is crazy. This is something that we're really, it's kind of a revelation what we're hearing from the congressman right now. And what we've been seeing so far is that you can see that the river is very, very shallow. There's people kind of wading all through the river. They could walk all the way up onto this side. But there isn't a single Border Patrol checkpoint, vehicle, anything at all back here. They're nowhere. The entire strategy, look, it doesn't even matter if there's a wall here. It doesn't matter, because literally they're not going to stop them until after they break the law. someone high up in the administration is telling them not to stop them from committing the crime, wait until they get onto this side of the border, and then process them and get them into the system. And by then it's too late.
Down in the Peninsula, is that where they came up today?
Yes, sir. Down by the Rincon. That's the Rincon area is
Yeah.
what it's called down there.
Yeah. Well, we were going to head down to the park,
Okay,
see
sir.
what's up, check with DPS.
All right.
They're fun little boats.
Yes, sir. You guys have a good day. Be safe.
All right, thanks a lot. Appreciate
Thanks for doing
it.
what you're doing. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Hey, how are you? Yeah.
This is another heavily trafficked crossing location. You can see the trails on that side. Those aren't for people going fishing. Those are for people coming across the border. They come across there and then they walk right up here. Apparently this little spot was not as steep before, but from the volume of people that have traversed up this hill, it's kind of collapsed. And now it's not really usable anymore. But that's the amount of people that come up and down this thing pretty much daily. So the Border Patrol, the River Patrol, is just pulled in. They're doing their nightly changeover shift. These guys are amazing. They do 14-hour shifts. 12 of those 14 hours are up and down the river nonstop. And these are actually Texas Department of Public Service, DPS patrol. These guys actually do interdiction. So the Federal Border Patrol will hang back and let the illegals come across and get into the United States. Now the Texas DPS will try and stop them before they actually get over. These guys are pretty awesome. They're rocking some pretty heavy gear down there. There's some 240 Bravo machine guns on the smaller boat, 2 of them, and 4 more on the bigger boat behind them. These guys are awesome.
Just behind me is Mexico. Rep. Gohmert has taken us in this beautiful park and we're talking about immigration. It doesn't seem like we have a lack of resources to stop the numbers of illegal immigration going up. It's just really a policy issue.
So we came out here for our second run out here at night, and the very first group that we run up on is a group of about 10 people that were just caught. The interesting thing was that there was one family that came over from Mexico, but there was about 4 or 5 Chinese nationals that were also with them. So they all got caught coming over on the same boat, but it brings to mind about there's some kind of transnational human smuggling group that's taking in people from all over the world. It's not just from South America, they're taking them in from all over the world. And now they're getting caught, they're getting processed right now. And this is just the beginning of the night here for us, so looks to be maybe a busy night.
They're supposed to end up being given a notice for when their hearing is. And that's what we understand there's 90% of them don't show up for.
Wow.
Now, there have been times, a couple of years ago, you know, they were holding them for a long period of time. But they're not doing that so much anymore.
So they're here illegal. So they'll take them to a facility, then they'll just let them go. They just
give them a notice where to appear, when to appear. A lot of them, they will ask, do you have relatives anywhere? Do you have somebody you can stay with? And a lot of times they'll have written down, whether it's really a relative or not, a name and address. You can't help but wonder if the cartels don't give them sometimes the name and address or the city they want them located in, especially if they still owe them money for bringing them across. But then Homeland Security ships them around. I don't know if you've heard me say before, but you know, one of the border patrolmen told me that he said Homeland Security among the drug cartels is called logistics. You know, the commercial for FedEx. We're logistics. You get us the package and we get it wherever you want it to go. And that's what they say about Homeland Security. We just get them across the river, and then Homeland Security ships them wherever we want them to go.
wow.
And You know, there's not an adequate way to check if somebody says, here's the address where I have a relative. You know, they don't have the manpower to go check every address. They'll ship them off. And that's our homeland security. You know, when I'd made the comment, can you imagine living here?
Yeah.
I'm surprised he called that a community, but
They hollowed out some like brush so you can like kind of get down into it.
why don't you walk over there with the camera there?
Check this out. Perfect spot. Border Patrol comes up. They hightail it around in here.
What is that?
See all that?
Is that a sack?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah.
But you can see how people been sitting right in there.
Generally, the spotters, you find them more like around the oil tanks. That's a really good place for them. Remember the big cage that was surrounding the pump?
Yep.
There's a couple of those, and they all like to get up on those cages because you got a great vantage point. You can see headlights from a long way off up there. But like I say, the only time I run into them is when I meet a border patrolman, and when they speak a few minutes, and then I hustle right where he came from. Because border patrol goes by, they figure, all right, we don't have much time, let's get going.
So Congressman Gohmert was just telling us that lookouts will go to the top of this cage. That way they have a view of the entire area. And they'll wait to see if there's any Border Patrol coming by. And if they don't see anybody, they'll wave the groups on over and they can get out. But if the Border Patrol does roll up here, they've been known to scatter. They'll jump off the top and go back over there across the other side and come back when everyone leaves. So the sun has come up and we're packing it in. Wild night. We stopped filming right about the time where we saw or heard a gunshot and then drove off really quick in that direction. Once we got kind of to where we thought where that was, we saw another group that was being processed. And we talked to the agents down there, and they said that a group of like 30 or so were crossing the border, and that diverted all of the attention of the Border Patrol into another direction. And that literally left the entire river border completely open. And we drove around for a couple of hours, and it was wide open. And it began to look like this transnational human trafficking group was using active tactics to divert attention away from certain parts to move whatever they were moving and get them over safely while the attention was drawn elsewhere. They pulled over about 15 at one point, 15 illegals, and another 15 ran off in a totally different direction, confused the Border Patrol agents, and there was something going on a whole lot larger last night. And apparently, though this cartel or this human trafficking group was being very successful in what they were pulling off, we come to find out that it's really kind of like it's a matter of politics, really. The Border Patrol is not being deployed as they would like to be, and we spoke to a number of them off the record, and it's clear that it's an administration policy move to have them hang back off the border and to allow people to come in, and then they get processed, and then they're in the system, and there they wait for an amnesty order or whatever would come down in the future. The only people that were, or law enforcement agency that was deploying active measures to stop any of this was Texas DPS. They were actively patrolling with full gear, good technology, and heavy weaponry as well, and they were doing a good job. They were stopping people from crossing the border illegally and doing it very effectively. But that was a state law enforcement agency and not a federal. So major props to the Texas DPS on that one. We're gonna pack it in and head back up to Dallas.
To continue the conversation of where does America go now from the border perspective is Louie Gohmert, Congressman from Texas. Hello, Louie. How are you?
far as I know, fine, Glenn.
Yeah, good.
Always better talking to you.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way. You ever feel like you're the only sane person in the nut house, and yet everybody is looking at you and saying you're the inmate?
Yes, there is a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
But it isn't just me. We've got a bunch of nuts in the crazy house here.
I know.
In Washington, and you know, we're in a minority, the ones that they're calling crazy. But
so, Louie,
it's insane what's happening.
One of the reasons why they call you crazy is because you are very tough on the border. And I've been down to the border. Thank you for joining us with our team down on the border. But as I watch this, things are getting worse. If Donald Trump is the nominee, he says he's going to seal it. But again, the GOP establishment and the Democrats say they're not going to do that. Is Donald Trump going to be able to actually build that wall and send these people back?
If he decides to keep his word on it, yes, he can build it. You know, Glenn, one of the things that struck me when I first got to Congress and George W. Bush was president was that when he started pushing for things that we'd never ran on, we didn't support, we didn't want to do, like saying we're going to have a $140 billion stimulus package and we're going to use it basically to provide rebates, tax rebates to people that didn't, as I said to President Bush, how do you give a rebate to people that didn't put any bait in the first place, you know? But anyway, there were things like that the Republicans, when we were in the majority in 05 and 6, Glenn, we were passing things, and I'd get up and go, we didn't run on this. This is not what we believe. We know in our hearts this is running up the debt. This isn't fixing the problem. Why are we doing it? And the answer came back repeatedly. And some of them for people Republicans that really didn't like George W. Bush. I like him, I just disagree with some things. But it was basically echoing what Karl Rove constantly told us. Look, it doesn't matter how much you dislike this president. He's a Republican president. And what history has shown repeatedly is that a Congress always loses in popularity if their president from the same party loses popularity. So you may not like it, but you better help him do what he wants to do, or you're going to lose popularity right along with it. I was surprised how many took that as persuasive, Glenn. That wouldn't persuade you. It didn't persuade me. But I saw people who didn't care for George W. Bush, who were Republicans, that would say, look, we got to do it. He's our president. Even though I don't like it, he's our president. We got to pass stuff. And that's why I took a lot of heart in that even though there would be people in the Senate that didn't care for Ted, they would still pass what he said, this is what we're going to do.
All right, so
they would. It would. It would work.
All right, so then that is, I guess, good news if Donald Trump gets in, because maybe they will actually build the border fence and curb this.
Mexico's not going to pay for it.
Mexico's not going to pay for it. But the idea that we could get it built, but Louie, if he's not in, or if we don't build it, if he changes his mind, the country.
There you go.
Yeah, the country is fundamentally transformed. We noticed down there, and we talked about it, was that they are arresting people deeper into the United States, and they're not even arresting, they're just giving a ticket. Instead of doing it at the water, they're doing it deep in. So those people just take their ticket and then they disappear.
Well, and the night before the Blaze folks came, Glenn, I went out 2 in the morning with the Texas DPS boat. And they have thermal imaging, they had night vision goggles, and they gave me one of the helmets with night vision and great thermal imaging. And the Texas Department of Public Safety boats were so much more sophisticated and bigger than the 2 little
Federal
Homeland
boats.
Security, Border Patrol had. And so we were going down the river, and our Texas DPS guys were radioing to the Border Patrol, okay, we're seeing behind the foliage, we got thermal imaging, there's 2, whoops, that's 3. They appear to be carrying something. Looks like they may be drug smugglers, and they give them the exact coordinates. And then we go a little further down. Well, we're counting, see, 16, 17, 18. They don't appear to be carrying anything, probably not drug smugglers. These are just people that are coming across. And we identified, or they did, the Texas DPS, to the Federal Border Patrol, these different people that they were spotting as we went down the river. And then we went down just a little bit, turned off the engines and waited. And we were there for, I don't know, half an hour, 3/4 of an hour or so. And then the Border Patrol came over the radio to the Texas DPS and said, look, obviously none of these people that we've got, and we had these big balloons that they floated up on the U.S. side, and they had thermal imaging, they had all kinds of stuff, and they would say, okay, our balloons have picked up the people you identified. They knew right where they were. So anyway, they said they're not going to move, apparently, as long as they know your boat is in the area somewhere. They don't know we're here. We've been here a long, long time, so why don't you guys go on back to the dock, and maybe we can catch them red-handed. So our guys did that, the Texas guys. They went back to the dock. And not long after we got to the dock, they radioed that shortly after we left the area and they heard the engines going downriver, that they all made a move, and they said, we've got all of those 18 that were crossing, and we're now in processing them into the United States. Well, what about the groups of 3? Well, we weren't able to catch them, and so we put some people on the interior, and we think surely we'll catch them at some point. Glenn, I've seen this. When Texas DPS sees somebody trying to cross illegally, their boat zooms up, and they stop them, and they don't come into the United States. But I was shocked. I thought they would catch the drug smugglers red-handed, which meant prison. No, they let them come into the United States, lost them in the foliage, and then hope someday they would pick them up somewhere. Glenn, it's out of control. I couldn't believe that we're not trying to stop anybody. We have the technology, we've got the ability to stop it. We could have stopped them that night, but the Border Patrol's orders are, let them come on in, and then we'll in-process whoever we catch.
Louie,
it's insane.
I thank you for exposing it. I thank you for showing us again the insanity of the border, which is getting much worse. Thanks for your time.
Perhaps thanks for exposing it. Without you, it doesn't get out to the American people.
Thank
you so much, Glenn.
Back with possibly an answer of where we go.